momentous day here on the BitMart BrainTrust because this is the 100th video on the BitMart YouTube channel. And for what feels like the 976th time, I'm saying hello, everybody. I'm Matt Ryan, your host for some reason here on the BitMart BrainTrust. And we're back. All three of us are back. We took last week off because, well, we have jobs and sometimes things run in the way. But we've got Nathan, Simone, and Kelechi Ibe. Gentlemen, hi. How are ya?
Glad to be back here, Matt. It is our 100th video for the BitMart YouTube channel. I don't know how many videos we've done between the BrainTrust, Bytes, minor leagues, but Kelechi, I'm glad to have you here as always. And Matt, your shining face is a shining example.
It's very shiny because I haven't washed my face since yesterday. So it a lot of oils, a lot of pockets. A lot of people in the YouTube comments just talking about how I have no skincare. I have negative skincare routine.
That's why we have it at 1080p so that everybody can see the reality. See the reality.
That's why I have the blue light.
But Kelechi, we're here. We've got some interesting stories to talk about. Glad that you are here, Kelechi. You're looking a little. Where'd the lighting go? Are you sitting in a dark room there?
I think it's I'm behind a window here, so it's a little bit dark. I'll try to adjust it as the show goes along.
It's okay. It's all we need is your biting commentary and your incredible wit, and of course, the degen nature knows no bounds in reality. So whether you're on camera or not, that is totally fine. Of course, we're talking about NFTs here. This is the BitMart BrainTrust. We try to be NFT focused when possible. And gentlemen, we have some interesting NFT headlines that we really need to discuss. They're not incredibly topical from today, but they are amazingly topical when it comes to the broader marketplace and the things that we try to discuss. The first one that I want to get into here that I want your gentleman's opinion on is that another NFT marketplace has switched to optional royalties. This is the NFT marketplace Looks Rare. They say we're slashing royalties, which usually when you hear somebody slashing something, you're either running away screaming from a cabin in the woods, or you're at Walmart contemplating, do I really need this other iPhone charger? Where is it made? It's blue, it's sparkly, it's kind of nice. But the Looks Rare platform is also they're putting like this pie together to where they say the buyer's not going to have to pay these royalties. Hooray for the buyer, I suppose. But unlike Magic Eden and Solana, they are making this 25% pie where they're still going to collect profits from the platform, distribute them to creators and collections. To me, this seems like what Magic Eden should have done. It seems like somebody has realized that you can't just have everything go to zero and still get something out of it. Gentlemen, I'm interested in your opinion on this.
I think it's one of those things where, like, I don't know if you guys know the saying about like pioneers always end up with like arrows on their backs. if you always try to like innovate and do something different, you run the risk of making mistakes, obviously, and then people can like learn from your mistakes and make it better. I think that's what happened here, where Magic Eden just went like cold turkey and just completely removed royalties. Meanwhile, Looks Rare, they're doing something similar, where I think the strategy is they're quote unquote giving powers to the buyers, but then understanding that without the creators, there's not going to be any buyers. So you have to kind of look after your creators as well, to make sure they're taken care of. And it's still a very, very interesting strategy, to basically say, we want to give the buyers more power, and, kind of mess around with the actual creators of those NFTs, that, they're going there to buy, to begin with. It's a very, very interesting strategy. The question is why? Like, why are they doing this, right? It's a very interesting topic, but.
What was the saying that you had about pioneers, Kelechi? I didn't catch the end of that.
Something about like pioneers always ending up, with their face on the ground with arrows on their backs, because they're always trying.
Damn, homie.
A Western analogy, okay? I'm sure that happened many times in Colorado and Utah.
Right.
Okay, I understand what you mean there. Yes, about being the first to do something creates an incredible risk.
Risk, right.
Okay, yeah. I get you.
Ergo, Magic Eden. Yeah.
Well, and before I get your opinion on this, Matt, I wanted to kind of echo to where you talked about, Kelechi, about how this seems like a more reasonable thing if they've learned from Magic Eden's mistakes. The company put out a statement where they said, the growth of zero royalty marketplaces has eroded the general willingness to pay royalties throughout the NFT space. But our royalty structure is meant to be a competitive solution that still benefits creators. So I think that you're right on the money with that. But Matt, I'm interested in what you think about this.
It's the same argument that I've been making on this show for the last couple of weeks. What are you? What are you selling? Who are you selling to? What do you expect out of this? If you're an artist and you are looking to sell your art and just sell the piece into the world and make some cash, are you looking to license? Are you treating it like a license where every time it gets sold, you get a piece of it, like in music? Because we keep talking about the world of NFTs as if it's this thing that's just ever expanding. We're hitting that ceiling quick in what it actually is and what are we defining it, because there's no regulation. We're talking about on the Non-Fungible news this week, an SEC commissioner coming out and saying we need to set up like what the actual rules are to make sure that we're doing right by the creators who are actually following the rules that we would need to put in place. That needs to happen so we can set the trend for everything else, because right now, the Wild West part of all of this, I think, is a huge reason for not only the skepticism, but for the depreciation of the marketplace right now. We're going to talk about, the new number 3 player in town a little bit later on in the show, but we're looking at volumes dropping across the board nearly 100% in the course of 10 months? Because who are you marketing this product to? Who are you marketing this service to? This is the issue with a lot of tech startups, is that they'll come up with this idea and it will be game changing, but they won't get into the minutia of the marketing and feel like if they just go to all the events, throw all their money at this thing, that all of it's going to come back to them. No one is learning lessons from the past 20 years or the 20 years before that. Just because you have the better product doesn't mean you're going to win. Betamax had better quality than VHS. VHS was more affordable, more accessible, and cheaper to make. They won, and they were also marketing, and they came along when video stores really hit their zenith in the 1980s. And wearing a hockey jersey with nothing underneath makes you itchy for those watching along on the video. When you look at how the NFT marketplace is coming across, the most successful things are the things that understand marketing and understand what they're selling. Bored Ape Yacht Club, we're just selling you photos. We're selling you art that has this value. NBA Top Shot, we're selling you video highlights of moments that you already like. They have a consumer base. They know who they're marketing to. Do any of these other projects that are coming out now and emerging, whether they're Web3 or Metaverse or your traditional NFTs, do they know the audience they're speaking to? Or are they just so entrenched in the minutia of what they're doing and the idea of what they're doing that they can't look past themselves to look at the market? Because I think that's what's screwing it up for a lot of people, is that they can't look outside of themselves and adjust to what we're seeing, not only economically, but just socially, in how people view these products.
That's true. That's true. I think a lot of NFT projects, and as someone who currently is working on an NFT project, I can speak to this. A lot of NFT projects, everybody's just kind of like, in this like rush, to launch a project and, to sell out and to quote unquote build a community. And, there's a lot, to think about, like you said, the business side of things is a part to think about. In this case, with royalties going away, like, do you have any other business model that can support your business, if royalties are taken away? Now, I'm not in favor of royalties being taken away. I'm always, because a lot of the reasons why most people, come into the NFT space, especially people from the traditional, art world, they're coming here because they feel like with NFTs they can actually sell their arts to a wider range of consumers, and then earn royalties whenever those NFTs are being traded in a secondary marketplace. So there's a business part of this, where people want to make this a full-time living. But at the same time, you also have to be, if you're really going to treat this as a business, which is what it is, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, do you have plans in place? Do you have a framework to say, if something happens, this is what we can do. This is how we can actually be profitable as a business if, in this case, royalties are taken away. And so, those types of questions are things that, you need to answer as a team or as a project owner, and devise ways to, combat things like that in case it does arise.
And it's very hard in a bear market to put the label Web3, NFT, crypto on something and expect it to sell. That happens in a bull market. And I think Matt makes a very good point here, to where you got to decide what you are, decide what utility you're providing, because art is still a utility in my mind. It's pleasant to look at. Sometimes it appreciates in value. As we've talked about, Bored Ape Yacht Club is basically that. I know they're trying to do other utilities, but like they're basically art. Matt's company, Catalyst Wrestling, they're using NFTs for ticketing. That's a utility. A ticket should be one of one, unless you just want to have a free-for-all when it comes to ticketing. And so figuring out a better use case and better royalty structure, like LooksRare has done, is probably going to be better than just floundering around and doing nothing. But I'll know that the market has peaked, similar to the late 2000s, early 2010s, when seemingly bacon was in everything. I don't know if you fellows remember this. When they have
I remember. Look at me. Look at me. Of course I remember.
Bacon flavored vodka, which I think is still around, and not a terrible choice. But the whole point is, why? I'll know that the market has really peaked in terms of the bearishness. Sorry, not peaked, I guess, bottomed, trenched out, when there is non-fungible bacon. And this,
I wasn't expecting that ending, but go ahead.
This non-fungible bacon, somebody's going to come out with it.
Title.
In just 1 month, somebody's going to go, it's non-fungible bacon. You can go, you know what? That's the bottom. We got no place to go but up. So to close with this story, LooksRare said the industry is trending towards zero royalties, but it's still our responsibility to support creators in this new landscape. So I think it's much better than what Magic Eden did, which seems, to Matt's credit, to have no plan. It just seems like they're just responding to the market, which is, I guess,
here was their plan. I'm going to give you a breakdown of what their plan was. Oh my God, we're not making enough money. We've got to get money from somewhere. Just get rid of the royalties. Just get rid of all of them. That's pretty much how the measured response to that was. And here's an interesting question. Do we start eliminating the word NFTs for Web3 assets? Is it getting to the point to where, much like using HTTP or having to type in www before you log on to a website, have we gotten past that? Are NFTs the MySpace of Web3 in terms of branding? Is it a branding problem that's really limiting the marketplace because it creates so much confusion amongst people?
That is a fascinating question, because we treat NFTs like they've been here since Bitcoin, but NFTs are unique innovations, specifically from an Ethereum improvement protocol. They caught on like wildfire. So is it that the browser that we type into and the Web3 apps or whatever of the future will eliminate that www and we don't have to do it? I'm not sure. I mean, we're always going to have one of one digital assets now that NFTs exist. But I mean, that is a good point to bring up, is that maybe people will assume that if you're issuing a digital asset or if it's on a specific blockchain, of course it will be, non-fungible. That will seem like an old-timey word to use. I'm not sure. Kelechi, what do you think before I move on to a platform that I did not think was going to get NFTs, but has done amazingly well with royalties?
I mean, to stuff like this, I always say it's still very early. Right now, we're talking about the issues with royalties. We haven't even reached I'll say like full market or mainstream adoption of NFTs. I think a lot of people still are confused as to what they are. I don't think changing the name per se could make the adoption faster. I just think that more use cases that people can understand, and basically doing a better job at educating people what it is without getting into the technical details will definitely help. Obviously more people understand it, because believe it or not, and I'm sure you guys know this, once people start trying to explain what a blockchain is and what NFTs are, it sounds simple, but once you start trying to explain it to a newbie, they look you like you have 10 heads, right? So yeah.
I agree with you, Kelechi, but I think that has to do with branding and perception. Because we don't need to educate. We need to educate people about the internet, but at a certain point, it was just the internet.
Right.
Televisions happened, radio happened. Cameras, people after a while stopped thinking it's going to steal their souls, or that if you smiled in a photo, you'd explode. But I think it comes down to marketing, branding, and perception, because you're seeing internationally. In China and a lot of different places, they've had to change the name of it to digital assets or digital tokens or different names that are not NFTs. And I think that's the mainstreaming of it. That's what you have to do, because it goes back the Etzel was awesome, but then, so was a Ferrari. Things advance, things move past. You're not always going to have stasis, especially in a market that is unregulated, you don't know what the hell's going to happen at any given moment, and the whims of the market are predicated by things that are, it's barely based on human behavior and human reaction. So you wanting to normalize with use cases comes down to branding. So with Catalyst Wrestling, we'll say digital season tickets. You get a digital season ticket to Catalyst Wrestling for the entire year. 6 events, get 6 tickets, you pay X amount of dollars. Yeah. Instead of having to say we're an NFT, which means this or that, you're trying to create something to where you're not scaring people away. Because once you get into fluoride in water, people hear the phrase fluoride and they're thinking, oh, it's poison or it's going to hurt our kids. It comes, there's a certain thing that we've all been dealing with for the past almost 3 years at this point that completely had the narrative taken away from it because no one knew how to explain it, because it was ever evolving. And it created more issues the deeper we got into it, because there was so much room for ambiguity and so much room for noise that it created uncertainty, it created doubt, and it mainstreamed a lot of things that negatively hurt the perception of people dealing with this or trying to solve the problems. For every person that's like me, you, and Nathan, who are trying to understand, explain, and bring a little bit more clarity to the space, there are people who are running pump and dumps, people who are running scams, people who are laundering their money. There's so many things that are going on right now in the space that humans are going to human. I feel like the idea of an unregulated market will never be to the satisfaction of the idealists, because people forget that humans are human. we look at the tribalism in the space. Look at all of the uncertainty. Look at the argumentativeness. Look at just the crypto bros, like the warehousing and siloing of these personalities and these people that are kneecapping an entire industry that is beset by people investing in that market.
Right.
It makes it so hard for people to have faith in that when you're looking to your left or looking to your right, and all you see is utter fucking chaos. How can you convert? Like, you can have all the use cases you want, but if I look to the left and to the right and things are on fire, and no one cares about putting out the fire because, oh, we've got this, we've got that, but the fire's still there, and the fire is growing, and people are making money off the fire. Well, how does that make me feel comfortable as an investor? Because there's a literal fire there.
Right. It's tough. It's tough. And that's the challenge that, this whole industry brings. Is it's almost like we are all kind of trying to figure things out as we go. There's no like central governing body that, decides these things or, decides the definition of things, So there's a lot of just testing and, like you said, a lot of scams, a lot of legit projects. But when it comes to the actual, what are the things holding it back? I don't think like the name NFT itself is part of the reason, because you can call NFTs anything. You can call them digital collectibles. You can call them digital assets, but it still does not like change some of the challenges that we're facing. For example, like I know for like gamers, gamers, they will love to have things like NFTs, but they hate the fact that, blockchain developers who try to create NFTs and, integrate them with, games, they're heavily focused on the monetary like side of things. They're not focused on creating a fun game, that actually, makes them, want to even learn about NFTs. It's always all about the money or play to earn. You can, play this and you don't have to work a day in your life because you're going to be earning money playing the game, and just takes away all the fun out of it, So that in and of itself is a huge challenge that, until we'll solve that, we're still going to have issues, in this industry. But the fun part about it is we are the ones kind of like building, this new technology, like us, talking about it, doing like, podcast about it, building in the space. It's definitely challenging, but I'm here for it.
First of all, I want to say that Matt Graham Cracker Coin is not a pump and dump. I've been seeing a lot of this FUD online. The $132 that's in the treasury is legitimate, and investors will get what is promised to them. Okay. Yes, there are no regulations telling me that I have to return that money. Yes, it may be in multiple wallets. Yes, we haven't perfected yet the graham cracker dust into reality. It's a work in progress, people. But to Matt's point about maybe NFT either needs to go away or be rebranded, I think that there will be some hesitancy. I mean, crypto's been around since 2009 now, technically, with Bitcoin. Even major institutions are still hesitant about using crypto in some of their marketing materials. And that's where you see the digital asset stuff come out, especially from Forbes and Fidelity. So maybe NFT will continue to be, I don't want to say a dirty word, but maybe it'll continue to be hesitant in marketing until you see such ubiquity that like Lipton is using it. And they're like, hey, it's not just your favorite beverage on a cold night. It's Lipton NFT. And you're like, oh, I get it. It's tea, but it's like the best tea or something like that. That's neither here nor there, gentlemen. Lipton, if you want to hire me, I'm not available. Sorry. But when we talk about royalties, when we talk about creators, there are still people getting it right, even if there are certain markets that are trending towards zero. And one of the ones that totally surprised me, because I haven't used this platform in a while, and maybe that's not a bad thing, is Reddit apparently has NFTs. Their trading volume hit an all-time high last week. They've got 3 million wallet holders, and they're definitely paying out royalties. And all their NFTs is basically the Reddit avatars trading back and forth like you would expect a market to do. Now it's on the Polygon blockchain, so it can do that because there's very little fees. But when you think about, like, of all the social networks that this could have happened on, Reddit both makes complete sense, and it was also kind of out of the blue for me. I'm interested in what you guys think about this.
Yeah, I'll take this first. Reddit's the perfect test case for this because it is the strongest and most vocal community on the internet that hasn't been shut down by the feds. And when you are giving them the opportunity to support fellow users and creators in their community, they're going to do that. Sure, there will be people hurling an unmitigated and a litany of slurs because it's the internet and Reddit can sometimes be the armpit of the internet. But this is the best side of Reddit. This is kind of the intended use case for Reddit. And I think that when we're talking about how to leverage the idea of NFTs and giving it a one-to-one use case, they're digital avatars. If you just marketed them as Reddit digital avatars, it could be an easier adoption. And I think that's one of the reasons why the phrase NFT confuses and angers a lot of people, because it attaches itself to all. If you just created a digital token service or a digital asset service or a digital art service, and it was NFTs. It's all on the blockchain, but you just said you own this, you get it, you get a piece of software, you can hold it there, you can store it there, you can buy it, you can sell it, you can trade it, you can do whatever you want. And you didn't use the word non-fungible or token, you would probably have a better chance at being successful in a wider marketplace than you would if you went all in on all of the things about NFTs that diehard love. Because to quote CB4, a very underrated and unheralded movie, the revolution must be marketed. And we're all from different backgrounds on this show. Me and Nathan come from more of a marketing background. He's also in marketing in a sense when it comes to search engines and optimizations. But Nathan and Kelechi are true believers in the world of blockchain and NFTs. I've been around this stuff for less than a year, and I'm very open and honest about that. I look at things as, how can I sell this to this person and give them the best experience? How do I phrase it? How do I say it? How do I sell it? How do I present it? And I think that's the stumbling block for a lot of people, because if you came up with a game that was fun, and like to go back to Kelechi's use case about games, NFT gaming, we've been doing play-to-earn gaming, play-to-win gaming since the mid-2000s or the late aughts. With the advent of smartphones, iPhone, Android, you had Candy Crush, all those Facebook games like Farmville that your aunt would send you at 3 o'clock in the morning because they couldn't rationalize how terrible their life was and how much their husbands hated them or they hated their husbands. But Farmville was there.
Always.
And that's how they met Mercutio and ran off to Key West. But that's another story for another time.
Beautiful.
It's dependent on so many different factors. And I think that people in this space don't look outside the first wave of people who support the industry. There's trillions of dollars out there. People making money every day. People losing money every day. How do you market your brand better than anybody else? A lot of these companies have legs up because they get millions in VC funding or get multi-million-dollar deals with large institutions. It is I get the diehard grunge, the grunge DIY punk guys who we're NFT lifers, we're this, we'll hodl and all this stuff. But when you get too much like a zealot for what you're marketing and what you're believing in, all you do is end up turning off people who might otherwise be interested.
Yep.
True. That's why people like Michael Saylor when it comes to Bitcoin, is because he was from outside of the space, came into the space, and can properly explain Bitcoin and its multitude of potential use cases to everybody from the corner shop owner to billionaires. So maybe the NFT space does need somebody like that at the moment. And I think it's interesting that, Matt, you brought up how when Reddit phrases it as digital avatars, it's still non-fungible tokens. Everybody kind of realizes that like an avatar is usually just one of one, whether you create it or whether it's auto-generated for you. So maybe Reddit was absolutely like the best kind of use case for this because they already maybe natively understood that. But Kelechi, I'm interested into what you think about this, because not only is Reddit doing amazing with these NFTs, they also don't even have any problem paying out the royalties on, it's on Polygon, so it's worth a little bit less than Ethereum or other networks, but royalties are royalties.
Yeah, I mean, I think for platforms like Reddit, I think the approach they're taking is just to keep it as simple as possible right now. Like just make them like avatars, and and it's interesting. Like when you go to the Reddit website, the NFT page, they said own a part of Reddit history. Again, this is the beauty about NFTs, and I know that the name can throw a lot of people off, but at the end of the day, what NFTs are like digital ownership. Like that's the key thing. Like now you have some kind of ownership to a particular brand, and the proof of the fact that you own the ownership, like you own that brand, is in the blockchain. It's verifiable. Everybody, like it's not fake. It's not just a fake image you found on the internet. It's actually verified that you own that particular avatar. So I think Reddit's just making it just to be a like an avatar that you can use within Reddit is a huge step. When it comes to NFT adoption. Obviously, they have like a gazillion users. So and to your point, Nathan, the fact that they still like honor like royalties and stuff, it's interesting, right? And it begs the question, like why do all like Magic Eden and this other like looks rare, or like why are they like taking away that's royalties away from from the picture. I don't understand that. Like I'm kind of confused because they say things like, oh, the whole market is trending towards zero fee, zero royalties. Like when did that even start? Like I wasn't even aware that was happening. I feel like a lot of those projects or a lot of those platforms, they were trying to like win the market share by kind of focusing on the buyers and saying, hey, come here, like you can actually buy NFTs without actually paying extra fees, in hopes that they're going to get market share. But actually it ended up backfiring to where a lot of those volumes started going to places that actually honors like royalties, like Cardano, JPEG Store, those other types of marketplaces. And why even LooksRare, even if they kind of did away with the royalties, they still provided an incentive for the creators to actually, be taken care of in a way. So quite frankly, when it comes to Reddit, very, very interesting, this shows that, NFTs, are here to stay. I'm sure like Reddit, they have a lot of smart people, to know that, NFTs are very, very, are like a huge trend. They're going to be a huge trend. They're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. And the fact they're there means we should pay more attention to it, and find ways individually. If we're thinking about building our own NFT project, which anybody like Matt, Nathan, you guys can create your own NFT project. How can we make the whole industry better, moving forward? Because right now I think a lot of people just focus on just make money, PFP, let's just make a bunch of money and just like to hell with it, whatever happens. But I think that there's truly successful ones are people who actually brand themselves well, actually have a plan, know what they're doing, and actually move the industry forward.
Ape, got to throw some apes in there too. Yeah, I don't know. To your point, Kelechi, I don't know when this whole narrative of, oh, well, the market's trending towards zero started. That almost seems like somebody kind of just made that up.
Made it up, right,
Justify their decision. If you're confused, and I don't blame you, Kelechi, then you're going to be even more confused by a huge story that has happened. We're not even talking about royalties here now. We're just talking about essentially taxes, digital taxes, to where Apple, if you're trying to make an NFT platform on Apple, or if you're trying to do NFT transactions on Apple, because you've got to use the internal payment processor there, you're talking about 30% cut that Apple is taking, which is insane to begin with. But the only comparison that this really has in the crypto world that people rightly, criticize is the country of India has a 30% tax on all digital asset trading. And no surprise, they don't really have a lot of digital asset trading. So I don't know whether Apple is reviewing this, whether somebody's trying to get a hold of Tim Cook and be like, hey, maybe we should review this because this is not going to make us a lot of money. But if you're an NFT creator, you might want to stay away from Apple, which is crazy to me. I'm interested in your gentlemen's comments on this. Like, one of the biggest platforms that NFTs could potentially exist on, and it seemingly just trying to shoot them away at the door.
Like, what's going on? Why is everybody going against creators? Now first they're taking away royalties, and now they're making it like Apple is having this 30%. Like,
you know why, Kelechi? You want to know why?
Like, enlighten me. I don't know.
Capitalism. It's, if you control the means of production, you make the rules. That is the shitty part of the game we play. Apple has this system in place for all in-app purchases. It is the way they do business. Is it great? Not particularly, but I have an iPhone. Most of us have Apple products. I'm recording the show on an Apple product. They kind of run, them and Amazon are in a headlong chase to just basically run all of our lives.
Google too. No,
yeah, Alphabet's up there too. Meta's lagging behind, but whatever. All of these things are because the market is skewed for the people in control. I will not go deeper than that, but if you are a small level creator, you're going to get the shaft somehow, somewhere. If you believe that every single person who has opened a business has your best interest at heart, sweetie, sugar pie, honey bunch, I can't help myself. I love you and nobody else, but you just, you mean well, but you're very dumb. And I don't mean to sound like the most negative person on the subject, but all of these things are issues we've seen before in global economies. In the last 30 years, with the rise of the internet, we've seen all of these issues, all of these conversations, all these different levels of access play out. You were talking about gaming earlier, Kelechi, and people just doing cash grabs to make games. Yeah, that was the entire 80s and 1990s, where people would pump out, if you watch JonTron or Game Grumps and you're a fan of video games from when you were a kid, 1 out of every 50 games that came out were good. The rest of them were straight trash. Now games cost more to make. They're not, 8-bit that you can just make in in a quick period of time. And NFTs are going through the same things that killed a litany of consoles in the 1980s. Trying way too hard or thinking they're way too smart for the audience because they're trying to work them.
Right.
And
that's true.
It screws everything up because not every person who does business with you has your intentions in mind. And I feel like the tribalism of the Web3 space has people forget that their job is to make people money that invest in them and invest in their survival. Whether that's the audience, whether that's VCs, whether that's just angel investors, or whether that's the market. Their existence subsists on creating a product or creating something so unassailable that it is important for them to continue to existing. Remember the banks in 2008? The complete collapse of the near collapse of the American economy. Those banks were too big to fail. Those businesses, the auto industry, the airline industry, they're too big to fail. We're all invested in their survival. And this is just a small scale version of that. Because if we ever do get to a point where how we live our lives is on the blockchain and everything we do subsists on things that are either, based on the NFT ideology, or our monetary systems are based on Bitcoin or, Ethereum or what have you. What happens if everything goes to shit? There's no regulation. There's no ways or balances, and it's very sectarian. How can we get somewhere? How can we get to this idealized future without any semblance of consensus?
Yeah. I don't know, but we're all gonna be here, to see how everything plays out, and whether good or bad. We have, players like Apple, trying to play their own parts in terms of, I guess regulating, the NFT market. But I think they are like everyone else, they're like also making it hard and difficult by not, putting the creators in the driver's seat, which is, it's almost like going to a store, and telling, people, telling the store owners that I'm going to pay you whatever I'm going to pay you. Like, and that's what most of these marketplaces are doing, actually, like, giving the buyers, like basically putting the option of how much royalty they should pay in the buyer's hands. Like, okay, I'm going to go to a store and I'm going to decide what I pay for this product. Like, it's tough. It's tough. And like, Nathan, what do you think about this whole Apple thing and just the industry in general?
Matt brought up a great point that I hadn't thought of since the late 80s, early 90s, although I didn't exist until the early 90s. There's a game that came out on the NES platform. It was the E.T. game.
Oh, the Atari. It was on Atari.
Sorry, it was on Atari. Anyways, you can look it up on Wikipedia. It was so terrible. It was such a badly produced game. Think about it, this is E.T. This is a Steven Spielberg movie. This is a cash cow. This is, if you just did it semi-competently to where it mirrored some other game that was out there, people would love it and you'd make money. All the incentives were aligned. But whoever made it, they just did it overnight. They mixed in some peanuts and some cashews and whatever, and here's a game. And it was so bad that the company actually recalled the game and they put it in some dump, either in New York or a rural area or something like that, to the point where if you have the physical copy of this game, it is extremely valuable as a sort of marker that it existed, because it was such a terrible game
so bad
that they tried to erase it from existence. And that's just the most prominent example. So definitely we're going through this sort of era where there's a lot of projects that have been cleared out. Hell, there's going to be a lot of blockchains that'll just be cleared out. You hear this from commentators all the time where they say CoinMarketCap has a list of top 100, but there's like 35,000 crypto projects, and I speak to a bunch of them when we do AMAs on BitMart. Even if you have an amazing use case and you've got a great community, you've got a great foundation, it doesn't mean that a blockchain will catch on. Where I think Apple is really messing up here is not only do they have the ecosystem and the resources to be a leader on this, But it just seems like they don't have, there's no thought that went into this for them. They just say, well, you're selling an NFT, you're selling crypto, you're using our platform, we'll do this. It kind of makes you think that maybe in a year or two, if they really wanted to be a leader on this, they'd have a special team or a special section that would look into this and incentivize it. Because it's kind of like it's like the Magic Eden situation with Looks Rare. It actually kind of leads us into our last talking point, which is actually a very happy talking point today, where if you don't, people only put up with so much. And if you don't give reasons for people to stick around, or you tax them too much, or you don't give them royalties, or that your product doesn't work, eventually they'll just go somewhere else. Either out of desperation or out of, hey, the new thing is actually cool and it's working. So that's just where I think Apple is really goofing up. And Apple going to be Apple. There's lots of positive and terrible negative things to say about Apple. When it comes to them leading in the crypto and NFT space, clearly they ain't doing it with a 30% fee. It's essentially a tax. But last thing we are talking about today, which I think, gentlemen, I honestly think that this show was responsible for. Okay. I don't even want to jinx it here, but I think that us talking about this so much actually made it come true. And this came out just 2 days ago on October 29th from Forbes Digital Assets. This isn't an article from Crypto Potato, which is, by the way, it's a real news service, and it's actually a pretty decent news service. But when you say the name Crypto Potato, people just think there's not that much legitimacy there. So this comes from Forbes Digital Assets. And the headline says, Cardano NFTs become the third largest NFT protocol by trading volume. What do you know, gentlemen?
Take a victory lap, gentlemen. Take a victory lap. You deserve it.
Do you think we had something to do with that? Do you think
the egotist in me says yes, but I think that a lot of the things that made Cardano attractive, especially in the last few weeks with all the issues surrounding Magic Eden and the royalties and a lot of that, a lot of users migrating to Cardano as a blockchain really set them up, and they ain't no ghost chain no more. So Kelechi, you may have to do some rebranding with your NFT project, pal.
They can't be a ghost chain, and we're trying to get on some more Cardano creators here. They are a very creator-centric chain. I hope that will continue to be true as the chain grows bigger. It is certainly not a ghost chain, but here in the article, it talks about how the network's overall NFT volume reached 191 million in the 30 days ending on September 30th, trailing only, of course, Ethereum and that dreaded Solana. So Ethereum was at 338 million, while Solana is at 116 million in those same 30 days, 40% more. But yet, none of the top markets ranked by DApp Radar, which collected this data, none of them offer Cardano NFTs. And actually, I hesitate to say this, but I don't believe that the BitMart NFT Marketplace offers Cardano NFTs. That doesn't make them unique, by the way. Cardano NFTs are just simply not out there. But yet, when something is the third most popular, when you have chocolate and vanilla, and then strawberry comes in third, but you can't seem to get strawberry anywhere, doesn't it just make you scratch your chin? Kelechi, what do you think about this?
My God, where do I start? It's, I mean, we know this. We know that Cardano is, the foundation is solid, and it has like a huge user base and community support. And it seems like now people are starting to realize it more and more. Eventually, everyone will at some point, because it's just the number speaks for itself in terms of the support and in terms of the how stable and how good the network is in terms of usability. The one thing I'm really curious about is what led to this recent rise. And I think it goes back to the things we'll be talking about, in the podcast. is the Cardano NFT ecosystem, the more like creator like centric, like as a matter of fact, the leader marketplace called currently called JPEG Store, they they started rising in prominence when they actually started offering royalties to the creators. Like prior to that, it was like CNFT.io, and back then they didn't offer any royalties. But when JPEG Store came out and started offering royalties, guess what? That led to more creators coming to the ecosystem. It led to more people wanting to create, whether that be like PFP projects, gaming projects, whatever, because now they say, okay, actually I can get paid for my work, right? While I'm building, in this particular ecosystem. So when you see like Magic Eden, now you look at LooksRare, taking away royalties, most of that volume is going to find its way somewhere else. And what better place than, a very like a fast growing market, with a lot of NFTs that are way below floor price when you compare it to other like ecosystem NFT projects like Ethereum, Solana. And that's where the volume is going. It's not a coincidence. Like money is liquid, like money flows to where it's, where it's taken care of. Like if you're not taking care of it, it's going to go to somewhere else. So I think a lot of that volume is coming from other like ecosystems and other like, marketplaces, going to the Cardano ecosystem. So very, very interesting to see that happen.
Well, and you asked Kelechi, you said, why specifically did this happen, right? And it's anybody's best guess because there's no one reason to point to. But right. Forbes speculated that the increase in trading volume was largely attributed to Cardano's Vasil fork update, which was basically Cardano's version of the merge. Not specifically, but that's the best analogy to use for it, which went live after only a couple of months as opposed to a couple of years for Ethereum, and increased Cardano's operating capacity while reducing transaction time. This also kickstarted the launch of Plutus version 2, which is the network's smart contract language that helps those NFTs get on there. And so now it's even easier for developers to build on the chain. So people always wonder, they say, how people seem to kind of paint Cardano as an overnight success. But like many overnight successes, you don't see the nights where they weren't successful. So you tend to just see, oh, Cardano's like this, but they've spent years and years building this. Everything is academic and methodical. And that's the way that Charles Hoskinson and the people that collaborate with them have built it. So this is not really a surprise to me, I guess. It's a surprise in the sense that I didn't expect it to happen right now, but the headline and the overall gist of this is kind of what I've come to expect from Cardano. Good things come to those who wait.
Right. Yep.
Closing thoughts.
Patience, persistence, and opportunity. I'm sorry, guys, I accidentally muted myself. But those are the three things that really have facilitated this. And I think that going forward, more people are going to see the different variety and different opportunities within Cardano. Hopefully it doesn't end up hitting loggerheads at some point, but I think that we're going to be moving forward. And I think this has been our best conversation yet here on the show about just all of these topics today, because we were able to get into some nitty gritty stuff on here, and accidentally gave an economics and sociology lesson, which is always important.
Yeah.
Kelechi, did you have closing thoughts on Cardano? I think that you were about to say something.
Yeah, I do actually. It's just, even when you look at things like the different marketplace, the different tools that reports different, transaction volumes on NFT marketplaces, like for whatever reason, the Cardano ecosystem gets left out of those lists. And the argument I've heard in the past is that, the technology is just, the data is not accessible because of the way Cardano is built, so I don't know. I don't think that's true. I think you can figure out a way if you really want to. But despite all those like challenges, they're still like rising to the top. And with the Vasil, I think the Vasil updates, I think the transaction fees actually dropped. The transaction fees were already low, but it dropped to it dropped another like 70+%. So it's just, it just goes to show that there's a lot of, thought that went into the, building the blockchain. And every now and then you see improvements, and people are starting to take notice, like, oh my gosh, not only is it fast, because one of the arguments is like, oh, it's built using the UTXO model, it's not going to be as fast, and all that stuff. But if you actually use it, it's actually fast. So there's a difference between what you hear and what you actually experience. Like, that's one of the things, like, people are starting to figure out. Like, I'm hearing a lot about Cardano being not so good and whatever, but when I start using it, the transaction goes fast, they're cheap, and there's some actually, quality work being done there in terms of the NFTs themselves, the community and what is being built. So people are starting to see that, and I'm not surprised that the volume is starting to take off. Like, Ethereum is still the biggest, right? I think there's, the total volume or something is like in the billions, right? And Solana is probably in the near billions, right? Like 900 million or something like that. And Cardano is still like 6 million or something. So it's still not big, but that shows there's a huge room to grow. Like from that to a billion. Hey, if you're an NFT project in Cardano, you're sitting pretty good. The future looks bright.
Yeah, it is one of those things where you really can't understand how amazing it is until you just use it. And Cardano's cheap right now. It's like 40 cents, I think, for 1 ADA. You can go on jpeg.store, buy an NFT for $8 if you really want to, and just figure out how the network works and how those wallets work. I think that my closing remarks here would be Cardano is fulfilling a quote that I can't remember who said it, but it's basically, you just have to be so good that they can't ignore you, right? And when you're good enough, they can't ignore you. And hey, I mean, they've been doing everything right, and they've been building for years at this point. And all you have to do is go use the network to figure out what's what, and from what somebody else is telling you. And we're going to try and get some Cardano creators on here, talk more about it in detail, people that go even deeper than perhaps me or you can. And yeah, I'm just glad that our prophecy of Cardano maximalism has finally come to fruition.
Congratulations, boys.
Thank you. Yes.
Not a maximalist, man, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
You all will be receiving your blue Cardano robes in the mail soon. There have been delays, but yep. So there you go. That's it. I mean, that's it. So Matt, please close us out here for non-fungible bacon.
All right, we're going to go take a non-fungible nap, and we'll be back next week with a guest here on the BitMart BrainTrust. For more information on that, you'll be able to follow us across social media at BitMart Exchange, and also check the show notes for information on how you can sign up to BitMart today, and all that other happy, fun stuff. But for Kelechi Ibe and Nathan Simone, I'm Matt Ryan. This has been the BitMart BrainTrust. Bye-bye.
See ya. Take care. Peace.
Hello to everybody out there in crypto land. Did you enjoy that conversation? I know that I did. It's always interesting to learn more about crypto projects, NFTs, and what is going on in this very unique industry. But now we've got to get some legal stuff out of the way, all right? It's just the way that it is. So, I wanted to let you know that all opinions and actions expressed and undertaken by the hosts and guests are individual opinions and actions and do not reflect the views and actions of BitMart. BitMart does not guarantee the accuracy, applicability, reliability, integrity, performance, completeness, or appropriateness of this content. The value of digital currencies can go up or down, and there can be a substantial risk in buying, selling, holding, or investing in digital currencies. You should carefully consider whether trading or holding digital currencies is suitable for you based on your personal investment objectives, financial circumstances, and risk tolerance. BitMart does not provide investment, tax, or legal advice. Use of BitMart services is entirely at your own risk.